Hello guys, so we are now in Lisbon and we met with Paul Veradittakit, partner at Pantera Capital, the earliest and one of the largest institutional blockchain and crypto investors, which has now over $7 billion under management. Nice to meet you here, Paul.
Thank you very much for having me, Anna.
So can you tell us some more about your background and when did you discover Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I got into the space in 2013. Before that, I was an economic consultant. I was working consulting, doing financial analysis and economic modeling. And then after that, I started working in startups. So I joined an early stage startup where I did business development and growth. And then for the last 10 years have been in early stage investing, doing VC investments, starting off in mobile. And then in 2013, some of my friends at Lightspeed were telling me about Bitcoin, and I kept reading about it, and the more that I read about it, the more that I felt like it was extremely disruptive, especially for the emerging markets. That's really why I got excited about Bitcoin, is that like people can actually have a currency that was decentralized, that wouldn't be manipulated by the government, especially in Argentina, where there are people that had the value of their currency drop to zero 3 times in their lifetime. So I felt like from a store of value and potentially from a remittance aspect, it was extremely disruptive. And so when I came across Pantera, I felt like I can continue to be an investor, and but go into a space that I thought no one was really looking at, that I could really go in early and become a thought leader and potentially help sort of navigate and invest into the most important companies to help build that space. And I also felt like, as any investor in venture capital, if you can find something that has, asymmetric returns targeting such huge markets, that would be, just a lot of fun. And since then, I focused on early stage investments for Pantera. So everything from early stage equity to early stage tokens, built out a great team, and now I think we're, top 3 largest funds out there.
Yes, great. And which year did you join Pantera?
I joined Pantera in early 2014, so March of 2014.
So basically, it was your only career in crypto.
Yeah. So I started off as an investor in crypto, and it was the first thing that I got into in crypto. So the first thing I did was I went to a conference just like where we are right now, and just started talking to people, and that's really how I learned about things. Because back in early 2014, there weren't any podcasts out there. There wasn't a lot of like newsletters or blogs, and so I really just had to talk to people and learn about what they were most excited about, and then read as much about the different technologies as possible.
And can you tell us more about current funds in Pantera? Which strategies do you have?
Yeah, so since we started in 2014, the first thing that people wanted to do was just buy Bitcoin. And so we launched a Pantera Bitcoin fund, and it's like an ETF that actually exists. It helps people to buy Bitcoin where they're investing into a hedge fund, tracks the price of Bitcoin. We didn't even take a performance fee. It's just a management fee and a exit fee. And that fund, I think, is at like 80 or 90,000% returns. It's just like tremendous.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
cool.
And then afterwards, we started investing into companies. So we launched a VC fund, and then we launched an early stage token fund in 2013, which invests into only pre-sales. So only pre-sales of projects like Polkadot and Filecoin, etc. And then the last fund that we have is a liquid trading fund, which actively trades cryptocurrencies that are already on exchanges or on the secondary market. So it could be Bitcoin, Ethereum, but we're targeting currencies that we think have higher upside than Bitcoin, Ethereum. So most of the fund is in DeFi and other types of infrastructure projects. But the current fund that we're actually raising for is a new VC fund. We've been getting a lot of interest from institutions wanting to get into cryptocurrencies, but they're not quite sure if they should just be in VC or maybe they should get a little bit of exposure to tokens. I think they're open to tokens and they've seen the return from tokens. So really they want to invest with Pantera and let us manage across these different strategies in a longer term horizon. So this VC fund is a 10-year fund, and it's going to be investing in all assets of early stage equity, early stage tokens, and liquid tokens.
And do you use any AI tools for the evaluation of the startups or for trading on the secondary markets?
Yeah, I mean, on secondary markets, we do a few different things. Number one, like companies on the secondary markets, even some of the most mature ones are only 3 or 4 years old. So they're really like early stage startups, and we've seen these companies since their inception. So a lot of it is really just having strong relationships, knowing what's going on with each of these different protocols because we have the relationships and we're keeping in good communication with them. So that's different than other people that are just looking at price charts and things like that. But we also use a lot of data and a lot of sort of like algorithms and models to basically understand how number one, like how the liquid tokens are sort of priced, priced relative to like non-crypto companies, priced relative to other crypto companies within certain sectors that they're in, and then from there like use a ton of other data like sentiment, etc., to figure out like which cryptocurrencies we should be in, but also how to size each of these investments on the liquid side.
And when you decide on VC investments, what are the most important things you're looking for in the company?
Yeah, for us, I mean, it's the team. You really want to make sure that it's a strong team, and if they have any advantage on the team side, domain expertise or other things, then I think it's really helpful. But I think another important aspect of the team is really, especially if you're doing sort of an equity investment and you're taking a board seat, is how is it to work with them, and what that relationship is going to be, because people have mentioned that some of these VC relationships with entrepreneurs are longer than a lot of marriages out there, which is pretty sad. But you want to make sure that you enjoy working with the other person, that if you are someone that's going to have feedback, that they will listen to that feedback, and it's a very sort of mutually beneficial relationship. And then outside of that, we want to make sure that they're tackling like large markets, and they have a good strategy around that. And I think the other thing about the market is just making sure that the timing for the use case is also the right time, because in crypto there's so many different areas that you can be investing into, but certain things are just kind of far away in terms of timing, and we want to make sure that we're early but we're not too early.
And can you share with us your recent investments about your most excited?
Yeah, we've done a lot of investments in, I'd say, infrastructure. So I'm on the board of Alchemy, and we led the Series A. Alchemy is the #1 developer infrastructure within the entire blockchain ecosystem. They help developers run nodes, and they have tooling to be able to monitor and optimize their decentralized application. They're on Ethereum. They're probably going to be moving to other blockchains pretty soon, and they just have the best customer service, the best product, the product that's just like technologically like just doesn't go down, functions very, very well. And so I'm really excited about that one. They actually just had a Series C that was led by Andreessen Horowitz, and that was at a 3.5.
Seems Emily from Lightspeed Ventures told us
Exactly.
as well that they invested into it.
Exactly. So I think that's really exciting. But another one that I think is exciting is genopets. And genopets is a move to earn, where there's a lot of, and Amy does it too, a lot of gaming startups right now that are incentivizing people to actually play the game. Well, this is based off of fitness. So the more that you move, the more that you get to earn tokens. You actually have a pet associated with that. And the pet is NFT, evolves over time, like Pokemon Go. And then you can also earn other NFTs in addition to, sort of the native token. And then there's like battles and things like that. So it's really gamification of fitness with a token and sort of with a pet. And I think all of that could be very interesting to really kind of just, monetize, but also gamify and then engage your fans in a use case that can better their lives. So it's kind of mixing a little bit of like, sort of like a social impact with like, everything else that's like, good for the economy.
Yeah, that's quite useful. And what's your overall view on gaming and NFTs?
Yeah, I think it's really powerful, to be able to give people incentives that align them in the sort of value of your project. We're basically just giving them shares in your project, which is a lot more powerful than just giving them money.
Yeah.
And then from there, I mean, I think further increasing the gaming economy by using the blockchain to create value out of these in-game items or NFTs, I think that's also really powerful. So I do think that there's going to be a huge market for crypto gaming, and I also think it's going to be a huge market. It's going to be maybe the catalyst for more widespread NFT adoption, because I think it just makes a ton of sense for NFTs to be in gaming, and then from there, as more people get used to NFTs, I think NFTs are going to just be sort of an added revenue stream for a lot of existing Web 2.0 products.
And do you hold any NFTs?
Yeah, I do hold NFTs. I mean, I'm not huge speculator in NFTs, but I do hold some NFTs, and I think it's just I think the most important thing about NFTs is it really just helps put communities together. I mean, I just went to NFT NYC, and there are parties for folks that have Ether Rock, or parties for folks that have friends with benefits, and so I think the NFT is a representation of just being part of a community, and that community is rallied around a certain idea or potentially a certain mission, and then I think eventually these NFTs will get mixed in with DeFi and finance too. We're starting to see platforms where you can actually use NFTs for collateral to get loans out, and so this is going to become a real asset, and there's going to be a lot of financial infrastructure that surrounds it.
And what trends in DeFi space do you see?
Yeah, with DeFi right now, I mean, for us, like, we continue to look at a lot of different ways that you can exchange assets in a decentralized way. So we've done a lot of things like decentralized exchanges, decentralized prime brokerage like 1inch. We've also done things around leverage, being able to do like decentralized derivatives. So I think for us, like, and even DeFi around like decentralized staking, things like Lido and Starter, etc. So I think we're going to see a lot more innovation around DeFi. Different types of lending are starting to emerge, like not only just like not only just variable like collateralized lending, but also like we're going to see uncollateralized lending. We're going to see fixed yield, fixed term lending, and we're even going to see NFT lending. So I think it's just going to expand in terms of the types of assets that are going to be lent, and I think some of these assets could, in exchange, and some of these assets could potentially be anything that's tokenized. So we're going to see NFTs, but also gaming assets be, kind of fitting within this realm, to even potentially like real world assets like loans and like, maybe even eventually like, stocks, synthetics, and things like that.
And are you much into yield farming and staking?
Yeah, yield farming and staking, like there's products out there that allow for leverage yield farming, and now I think staking derivatives, which I think are very, very important. We're starting to see a trend where you have tools out there that manage liquidity all across, or structured products that help to manage, getting access to liquidity across a whole bunch of different pools, whether they are within the same ecosystem or even cross-chain. And we also think that, being able to provide more liquidity for liquidity that you put in, having derivatives around that makes a lot of sense too. So from a value add perspective, Pantera does support each of their companies that we invest into with liquidity, or with things like, crowd loans for Polkadot, etc. And then on the staking side, we want to be long-term holders and also participate in the inflation of these projects. So we do stake, and we do governance, and we do voting, and all the different things that a lot of projects need, especially from a larger token holder like ourselves.
And now you are speaking at Solana conference. So what's your opinion on Solana ecosystem? Are you super bullish on it?
Yeah, I just can't believe how much activity is going on. I mean, it really started off with the hackathon that I participated and judged right before the conference, and the quality of submissions was extremely high, more than other ecosystems that I've seen. And so that really just kind of set the expectation and groundwork as I head into this conference of just what I would expect from this sort of level of entrepreneurs that's coming into this ecosystem. And I think what I got from this conference is there's just a huge volume of entrepreneurs and developers that are building on top of Solana. They've done a great job around business development, around community, around issuing the grants, and I think there's definitely certain use cases that lend itself more to Solana than even other blockchains, and I think it's things around high throughput. So gaming, it seems like every gaming entrepreneur that's thinking about doing like a blockchain game is really looking at Solana or building Solana first. And I think NFTs could be very interesting too. I think there probably needs to be a little bit more like product differentiation on the NFT side, but on the gaming side, it's like moving really quickly. And then of course, like there's a DeFi ecosystem that's being built around Solana too. So I'm actually really bullish on Solana. I came out of this conference thinking that there's a good shot that Solana is going to be around and have be one of the, because I think there's going to be consolidation of layer ones, and I do think Solana has a very strong position after this.
Yeah, and did you invest into any projects building on Solana?
Yeah, so we did make an investment in a few Solana projects. Some of them are undisclosed, and some of them are from the hackathon. So we'll see when I can disclose those ones. But some of the more recent announcements would be genopets. We also invested into Faraway, which is a sort of a larger round with us, Lightspeed, Alameda, and Jason and others. But it is a first-person shooter game, browser-based, and I think it's one of the best gaming entrepreneurs that we've seen come into the crypto side of things, and we're really excited about that one. So those would be two on the gaming side, and then the other ones are a bit undisclosed right now.
And can you tell us your opinion on altcoins? Which ones do you like, in which ones do you invest and expect good returns?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, on altcoins, we do a lot of our altcoin investing in DeFi tokens and DeFi infrastructure. So, we're really big on like the lending ones. We're really big on the staking ones. We have some things around stable coins, and we also think that there's a lot of money going into, a lot of TVL going into products that help manage DeFi across many different protocols. So think about it like the Wi-Fi style model or the robo-advisor model. So as long as you can build a very strong, and those ones are very interesting because the ones that are most community driven seem to have like the higher market caps. And so that particular category has been good from sort of a investment perspective. And then also I think we're going to start seeing some tokens around structured products. There's obviously Ribbon Protocol. We invest into Ondo Finance, which I think is going to bring more people and also institutions into DeFi. And so that's like another interesting one for us.
Any particular recommendations, what coins to buy, potential new gems?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, like, they don't have a coin yet, but I'd say Ondo Finance is really interesting. I think to be able to tap into yield without needing to know about, like, or figuring out like how to optimize that yield across different pools, but just being able to sort of like put into different single asset pools based off of your risk profile, and not having to sort of deal with everything else underneath, I think is very smart. So I check out Ondo Finance.
Cool, we'll check it out. And what's your strategy for hedging risks?
Yeah, so with us, I mean, there's two different ways that we can, or three different ways we can hedge risk. Number one, we can always do things like derivatives. I think another thing is basically moving from altcoins to like the larger cap stuff, so Bitcoin and Ethereum, and even across sort of Bitcoin and Ethereum, there's the Bitcoin and Ethereum like ratio, and we kind of like move back and forth depending on where we think the market is. And I think the third thing is potentially moving into stable coins where we feel like the market is a bit overheated.
And how do you see institutional investors' participation in the industry?
It's growing. So our last fund before this one, our last VC fund, was 25% institutional investors and 75% retail, 75% retail investors and 25% institutional investors. Well, this current fund is flipped the other way around, where we have about 75% institutional investors and 25% retail investors. I mean, we're seeing quite a few endowments come into our funds. We're starting to see interest from pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and so I think it's growing quite a bit. Some of them are getting into the space by just buying Bitcoin, but for us, we feel like a diversified approach just makes a lot of sense. Diversified approach across cryptocurrencies, but mostly a diversified approach around both the equity side and also the token side, whether it's early stage or late stage. I mean, there's some that just kind of want more early stage tokens and equity, but so it's either like getting those two together on the privates, or some of them are just saying, well, as you can see from Solana, even though it was public earlier this year, and you can still get a very large return from investing into public tokens if you find the right ones. And so a lot of them are becoming a bit more open to the liquid side, and then you put it all together and they don't have to worry about like being in many different funds.
Yeah, that's a great trend. And what are your predictions for the price of Bitcoin?
I mean, I think the price of Bitcoin, has still more room. I believe that there's still educational process right now for institutional investors, and I think there's still an opportunity for more retail investors to come in, especially as more like neobanks and more traditional fintechs start continue to offer Bitcoin as a way to get sort of exposure to the cryptocurrency market, etc. So from the retail and institutional side, I still believe that this run has legs, and therefore I can definitely see price of Bitcoin going over $100,000.
And when do you think this bull run may end?
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of momentum going into the end of the year, so I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it continues well into next year.
Right. Thank you for sharing your opinions with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.